The regular meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission is now in session for January 6, 1994. I'd like to wish all of you a very happy new year and prosperity during the coming year, and all types of good things should happen to you, I hope. With that, we'll go to the roll call.
Purcell?
Here.
Panay? Collins?
Absent.
Castanis?
Here.
Cox? Pratt?
Here.
Yee?
Here.
Toby Johnson?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Have a quorum. We got any announcements about when this will be broadcast and rebroadcast?
Saturday at noon.
The program today is being televised live and will be rebroadcast Saturday at noon for those of you who may want to see the program repeated. Anyone in the audience who wishes to address the commission should fill out a slip. The forms are to be found on the back table or on the podium here, I guess, and submit them to the secretary, the lady in the purple dress to my left. With that, we'll begin the day's session. We have a request on the first two items, Rich, to have items 1 and 2 continued until the next regular meeting of the commission.
That's a chair decision.
Move they be continued. Second.
The request is from Commissioner Cox, who was unable to be here today. We have a motion and a second to continue them. Please signify support by recording aye if you favor it.
Aye.
Those opposed? None, so it will be continued. And then moving on to item 3, equipment compatibility report.
Mr. Chairman, members, Happy New Year. Mr. Purcell, welcome to the Cable Commission. Mr. Purcell is sitting in for Supervisor Cox today.
Thank you.
There's a bit of a deja vu to the equipment compatibility report in that I've asked our engineer, Dan Erickson, to attend today. Dan's sitting here behind me and can back me with more technical responses if you should have those. I called it several months ago following the implementation of the Cable Act. There were issues of compatibility raised by the Congress and which directed the FCC to respond. That report was issued about 60 days ago. Staff recommended and you concurred that this commission should respond to the FCC's notice of proposed rulemaking. We asked our engineer to prepare those comments and they are before you. I will note that there is one amendment to the staff recommendation of your engineer and of myself before you, and that is to paragraph 5. That's based on comments by a constituent, Mr. Carrier, who has addressed you a couple times, I believe. He provided some additional comments, and we've incorporated those into the draft. Essentially, these comments support the FCC's notice of proposed rulemaking, specifically in one key area, I should say two areas that are important to highlight. That is that converter boxes have a dual output in them, that they be made available to subscribers so that the scrambled signal could be fed into the box and 2 outputs could be selected to come out. That would address the needs of subscribers with VCRs and or the more sophisticated sets that have the picture in the picture. Mr. Carrier's comments were that the boxes include the same type of programming which you're familiar with in your VCRs, that you could program the box to turn off and turn on several times during the week, up to 7 or 8 days forward. And the third comment I think is important to note in the overall response recommended for you, excuse me, is recommendation that all television sets after 1995, that the FCC required that all video consumer electronics, TVs, VCRs, after 1995 have a common digital interface. The FCC's proposed recommendations or proposed regulations speak to that as 1996. We believe that the marketplace and consumers will be benefited by the FCC expediting that. That is that in the future, new television sets, new VCRs would have either a digital interface that can be programmed remotely, or more likely where a chip could be plugged in, and the need for a separate external converter box would be eliminated. With that, Dane's here to address any more technical issues which you have, or possibly to summarize in greater detail. The FCC originally asked that these comments be filed by January 10th. Right before the holidays, they extended the filing date to January 25th. So we're not quite under as tight of a gun to get them in as we need to be. But as written with the amendment of paragraph 5 before you, they are recommended by myself and by your engineer.
Questions by members, Jim?
Rich, with these new converter boxes, does that mean that new converter boxes have to be redistributed again?
No, these would, the regulations as drafted and proposed by the FCC and including the comments we have would be that the enhanced box would be available at the pay option, something that subscribers would pay for upon request. So it would require that they be distributed to those people who wanted them and were willing to pay for them. But it would not mandate a whole new rollout of new converter boxes system-wide.
How about cost? Who's paying the cost?
The cost will be borne by subscribers and will be regulated under the Cable Act on an actual cost basis, as we've implemented since October.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Costanza.
I have a question, maybe for Dane, Rich, concerning the future and the need for converter boxes. The industry apparently is getting away from the need for converter boxes, and I'm assuming that by 1996 that will be the standard. Is that what I understand, Rich, to report?
No, I think you're going to see a long-term need still for the converter box. The new standard that Rich referred to, where all VCRs and TV sets that wish to be advertise themselves as cable ready would have to have an interface fitting on the back of the set. And that's where the new converter box would plug in. It would get its power from the back of the set. And this means that the TV set's tuner would be fully functional, the picture-in-picture part of the TV set, all the high-end consumer features would once again be available to the customer when he buys a set. And if the customer doesn't hook that set up to a cable system, he doesn't plug anything into this little connector on the back of the set. If the customer does hook that up, his setup to a system or his VCR, then he would get a module, probably about the size of a pack of cigarettes, which would plug in to that connector on the back of the set. That module would get its power from the TV set. You wouldn't need a separate transformer that you'd have to plug into your outlet. So that makes it very consumer friendly. The FCC proposes not requiring that until December 31, 1996. Our comments suggest December 31, 1995. That's the soonest I think the industry could possibly tool up for these. And one other thing I just might clarify. This box would be an analog adapter. It would not be digital. Probably next to the interface device, the most significant issue in these comments are identified as long-term mitigation measure number 13. And that's where the FCC asks, if the FCC adopt a mandatory digital standard for the digital compression techniques that are now fairly well developed but haven't quite yet hit the consumer market in actual use. And the commission is saying, if we don't adopt a digital compression standard right now, we'll probably be in the same place we are right now with this incompatibility between consumer electronics and cable systems. You could find yourself being in the same position 5 to 10 years from now, in that you have half a dozen different digital compression systems, or even if it's only 2. If you don't want to get yourself into a VHS versus beta problem. So in these comments, they urge the commission to, in fact, go ahead and adopt such a standard and prohibit any routine use of a digital compression standard to cable subscribers. The only difficult part of that is you open yourself up to risk that you're freezing technology if you insist on a standard. But one way around that is to be very liberal for the commission in granting waivers, that if a particular system wants to try out a particular digital compression system, the FCC could be quite generous in saying, yes, we will grant you a waiver to try this for your 20,000 subscriber system. But I think it's quite important that the FCC prohibit any widespread routine use of a digital compression system until there's one and only one national standard.
one other question, Dane, and that's pertaining to where the technology seems to be going. Have other cable companies or other commissions or through other cable companies employed your services to respond to what the FCC is doing these days, or has it been pretty much Sacramento, or is your business doing that?
No, we prepare responses for City of Richmond, City of Sunnyvale. Did one for Mountain View too, as I recall.
And just one last question. I remember when this the Cable Commission did relax its standards. Is it going the other direction now? Is the FCC going to start enforcing stricter standards in terms of the technology, or are they going to continue to keep those pretty loose? Do you see a change in that direction?
No, the commission tightened up its technical standards, in fact, effective January 1 of this year, in docket 91169. And in some areas, your local standards are still a little bit tighter. For example, in carrier to noise, the franchise standard is 45.4 dB. The old FCC standard was 36 dB. The standard that is in effect right now is 40 dB, and in one more year that will go up to 43 dB. And the FCC is getting back into the business of doing its own measurements.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan.
Any other members have questions? Anyone in the audience indicated they wanted to speak? Okay, question then.
Who approved the recommendation?
Moved and seconded to approve the recommendation. Please call a roll for a vote.
Panay? Collins?
Yes.
Castanis?
Aye.
Purcell?
Aye.
Pratt?
Aye.
Yee?
Aye.
Toby Johnson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Moving on to item 4, recommendation regarding the basic service with tier rate determination.
Chairman, the staff report this month, I consolidated several report backs and other action items. First, let's take the issue of basic service tier rate regulation. If you recall, in September, you authorized certification to the FCC. You were certified in October. We noticed the cable company at your meeting on October 6th, I believe. Sacramento Cable filed its initial submission on November 15th. However, that submission was qualified by the cable company with subject to some changes, and it did not include the cable company's auditor's opinion. That now has been taken care of. Last night, Sacramento Cable provided the updated filing of their Form 393 with their auditor's opinion. Neither Brent nor I have had a chance to look at it in depth at this time. In the process that we laid out, it was necessary to extend and continue the process by tolling the review period by 90 days, which you did in December. In that process, we had recommended a hearing at today's date for the public to comment on the proposed cable rates, recommending that you continue that hearing, which has been noticed for today, to your next meeting in February.
Okay.
That's the first recommendation.
Do you want to act on those recommendations one at a time?
I would recommend that, yes.
Okay.
I would so move.
Moved, seconded to. Who gave a second?
Jimmy.
Okay. I'm going to move it just to get it done. Okay, Ms. Collins, Mr. Yee. Please call a roll for a vote.
Collins?
Yes.
Castanis?
Aye.
Purcell?
Aye.
Pratt?
Aye.
Yee?
Aye.
Toby Johnson?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, the next section.
Second section of the staff report has to do with report back to Supervisor Cullen from last month on complaints she received regarding reception quality. And I've taken this in two approaches. One is the issue of the impact of the additional outlets on the cable system. Essentially, I've discussed this at length with Dane, and Dane basically concurs with the cable company that at some point, depending on where you are in the system, in the cable company's system cascade, the need for an additional amplifier in the home is probable or likely. When you get up over 2, I think Dane said 3 sets or 3 outlets for sure. Yes. So to the extent that reception quality problems have been generated because of additional outlets, yes, that's one remedy. However, the complaints that we've had, and I believe the ones that Supervisor Collin had as well, dealt with subscribers who had reception quality problems and had not had a change in service. Historically, and I believe 4 times in the Commission's lifetime, you have had Hammett Edison conduct reception quality tests in the field. That is where Hammett Edison, at that time, went to individual subscriber homes and evaluated the technical quality of the system and reported back to you in Dane style with both the technical, all the DB stuff, but Dane has also developed or will provide you with a ABCD type academic grade. I'm recommending that that the Commission again consider that to ascertain if there has been a degradation of reception system, of the quality of the reception on the system. Sac Cable did do a realignment of their microwave system about a month ago, 2 weeks ago now, that may, as too early to tell, resolve some of these problems. That's why I'm suggesting that you authorize the reception quality tests and then allow staff to continue monitoring the complaint calls for 60 days before we would have Hammett Edison move forward. As of today, I have 3 subscribers who would like to have their homes be test points for poor reception quality. They have reached our office after having gone through several steps with the cable company in getting reception quality up to what they believe to be an acceptable viewer standard. From the fiscal aspect, we originally authorized a little over $8,000 for the FCC comments on the equipment compatibility, which you just approved. As of today, with Dane's time, we've spent only about $3,000 of that. So the funds to conduct the reception quality tests are available in the engineering authorization from November. With that, if there's more questions, I'd be happy to respond to them on the reception quality issue.
I support that approach, doing that, but I would also like to say that if there is a pattern to the reception quality complaints, then you should look at that and see, maybe make sure you're testing it in different areas. Don't concentrate at all just in, unless all the complaints are coming from one particular area.
The complaints we've had have not had a pattern to them. My approach to it, if you so authorize, would be to continue collecting names and addresses of people with reception quality problems and make those the test points. I will check to ensure that they are spread throughout the system. We generally
I would appreciate it just because of the calls that we got. Now, maybe with the realignment, with what happened with the shutdown and the realignment, maybe those go away. I don't know.
In times past, we tried to do one subscriber test within each of the hub areas of the microwave hubs of the system. That's how we dispersed before.
Okay.
That was the only question.
Yes.
Yeah, I had the same question as Isla, is making sure that if there is any test pattern, it would be throughout the whole area. But at the same time, we want to ascertain that these are not because of additional outlets. These are other than additional outlets.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. Yeah. Are we also covered by FCC regulations to conduct these quality hearings periodically, or what?
I want to let Dane comment this. With the change with the FCC, it's now based on a proof of performance certification to the FCC. As I understand it, the FCC leaves open the ability for franchising authorities to conduct their own independent tests. I'm not recommending that you do an FCC level analysis, primarily for cost reasons. That would probably add 50% more to the cost. I'm suggesting a sampling like that which you have done in the past as an indicator to the cable company whether or not we have found problems or not. Historically, when you have done this, the cable company has responded very quickly to tweak things out where there hasn't been a problem. And in fact, what we've done one time in the past is that we published the map grids of where we would be testing. And the cable company had an opportunity to check those beforehand. And because it's a system intended to bring everything up. So I'm not recommending an FCC level proof of performance review.
Okay. Of these 3 households who asked to be part of the quality control, have their problem already been submitted to Sac Cable for their?
In these 3 cases, that's correct. All 3 of these have had tech service calls, and the cable company said there's nothing more we can do for you.
Okay, so now we're going to go in and test it ourselves.
If you so authorize.
Okay.
Yes.
Rich, have those complaints been on what channels, particularly all of the channels? Is the signal coming into the home, or is it the home shopping channel versus NBC versus public access or the education consortium? I mean, are they all bad, or is it going to be tied at all to the producer or the source programming?
I can't pin it down, but the conversations I've had on reception quality. The one from the person from yesterday was in Folsom. Sounded like he was fairly deep into the system cascade. Dane just advised he would like to select the test points based on system architecture and system design, which we've done also in the past. I can't detect a pattern, Mr. Costanis, to say it's a certain channel. The man yesterday complained of a line or a bar across all his channels. Other people have complained about variations in volume on some channels, not on others. And the third guy just had a weak, fuzzy picture on everything. So.
And our consultant, Hammond Edison, will do the test across the board. Is that correct? I mean, do we have it designed in such a way that there'll be a test across all those sources of programming versus?
Right. When I've been with Dane before, we've gone through in the subscriber's home with his equipment, every channel on the system. You may recall that Dane does Dane explained it, a TESO review, which is a visual one, as well as if deemed necessary, he hooks up the equipment and does a detailed channel by channel technical review. And as I recall, the system specifications change as you change the channel number. And we have provisions with Hammond Edison to do both of those.
I think, Terry, obviously that one of the things we did get complaints about the intermittentness of it too, but you know the problems seem to be across channels and intermittent.
Yeah.
And but I understand what you're referring to, because if I'm running channel 6 off cable and I'm running it in another room just off my rabbit ears, sometimes that's where the problem is. Their problem, you can tell it real quick because you're getting it at the rabbit ears as well as you're getting it on the cable. So
But you ought to
as you go from room to room, you can check, but on your cable channels, you can't do that. You can't double check. There's no way to do it because they're being carried just on the cable system.
You want to tell Lila how to correct your problem, Jim?
Yeah, get an additional outlet for free.
I've been fighting that with my whole family.
Okay, Rich, did you have?
Yes, Rich, when the test is done and we just determine that there's, say, a lesser amount of quality, is the cause determined also? If you go and test 10 homes, how do we know that maybe 4 or 5 of them are not the television set itself instead of?
That's what he has to check.
Okay, Dane?
To answer your question, yes, if any of the picture qualities are poor, then more detailed measurements would be made on that particular channel to find out why it's poor.
Okay. Thank you.
In times past, I'm not recommending at this point, but in times past, we've run the test all the way back through to the head end. I'm not recommending as thorough review, as extensive analysis as we've done. Comment, it's been about 3 years from my recollection since we've done this. The system has been maintained very well. The reception quality complaints are significant because there never used to be any, and now there's 10, 20, 30. So that's the change. There's something different out there.
Are the complaints specific to certain areas, or?
Nothing I can identify. They appear to be, from what we can tell, random.
Mr. Chair, one last question. Rich,
May not be the last question.
yeah, may not be. One more question. Of these 10 test areas, are they going to be all from a list of complaints, or how are you choosing those 10?
I'll work within it. I would like to get a sampling within each hub, as I mentioned. I'd like to address constituents who have problems, but I also like to be sure that we've got, as Dane just passed forward, a test of the system by testing the system deep in its structure, a representative structure. If we test the system right next to, in every case, right next to the transmit point, to the hub side or to the head end, that doesn't give us as good an evaluation as the cascade on down. And I'll have to work that out with Dane. So the answer would be probably a combination of all three. We'll go for balance, depth, and consumer response.
Okay, I think ourselves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
It seems to me likely that somewhere along the system, somebody will require an amplifier to be installed in their home. I assume that they're going to be paying for that. What is the likely cost? Is it a one-time? Is it going to be a monthly charge? Is it your equipment? Is it their equipment? How do we?
The cable company sent us a letter. Darby sent us a letter last month saying that the costs were going to be in the range, as I recall, from $20 to $60. They have not disclosed that yet. So at this time, we don't officially know what the amplifiers will be nor what the costs are. They will certainly have to meet the system specifications. But at this time, it's unknown. I anticipate that when those are available, there will have to be a new disclosure to subscribers, which would specify that.
And it'll be at cost?
Yes. Everything under the Cable Act that is consumer contact of an equipment nature is now at actual cost. There's a return on investment factor in there, but otherwise it's reasonable return on investment and actual cost over a reasonable useful life.
One last question from me.
Go ahead.
But is it likely that you have a statistically estimated how many people might be affected by poor quality in the whole area? I mean, we're talking thousands, we're talking hundreds.
At this point, it's hard to tell. When the complainant gets to us, they're usually very frustrated. But to tell how representative they are is quite difficult. I'm not sure how many subscribers know to contact the Cable Commission with their problems. And that's been one of the issues all along. You know, we listen in the phone book, we have public meetings, et cetera, but we've never done an enclosure in utility bills, et cetera, to make that notification. So I have difficulty saying what percentage it might be. I can only say that for the last 2.5, 3 years, we probably had a reception quality complaint every 6 months. I've had 20 to 30 in the last 3 or 4 months. And so that's the subjective factor that I'm using, and however you want to multiply that is to your own analysis.
Okay. Rich?
When you have a lessening of quality, because say you're using 2 outlets in your home, a question was asked by one of my constituents. Does that mean that the second set that you hook up is the one that has the lessening of quality, or do both sets have a lessening of quality?
I'll let Dane answer, but I believe it's both.
Dane, do you want to?
There's not a first set and a second set.
When you split the signal, I think they both come down equal.
It would be both sets, because you'd have to have the amplifier before you do the split in order to give both sets the required signal strength.
Okay. Any other points of information that members would like? Not, do we have anyone in the audience that wanted to speak on this?
I move the recommendation.
Okay, my recommendation is to authorize the reception quality test of the subscriber locations if there are not improvements in the next 60 days. Do you want to second that?
I'll second.
It's the new year.
Please call the roll for a vote.
Collins,
Yes.
Costanza,
Aye.
Purcell,
Aye.
Pratt,
Aye.
Yee,
Aye.
Kirby Johnson.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, your next item, Rich, is what?
Within the staff status report, Mr. Chairman, there are several other additional items, no action required, which I called to your attention at your pleasure to read. I would ask Commission Counsel Blair to comment on 2 items, the status of the hearing officer and the status of the protective settlement.
Okay, Mr. Blair.
Mr. Chairman and members, you did approve a settlement with First State Insurance a number of months ago in the sum of $1.1 million. That required us to get releases executed by the constituent jurisdictions, and that took a while to do. We accomplished that in late December, obtained the check and deposited. As far as we know, it hasn't bounced.
And Brent went to Maui the next day. I was really weird.
We have the 1.1 million in hand. The hearing officer on the enforcement proceeding, due to Mr. Fudge's trial calendar, we granted an extension out of professional courtesy, and subsequently, when we got to it, we exchanged our lists. We struck the names from the others list, and this morning we drew lots and selected retired Superior Court Judge Dunham from the Long Beach Superior Court will be our hearing officer on the enforcement proceeding. Obviously, with the late selection, we haven't had Dunham.
Dunham from where?
Long Beach.
Thank you. We don't have a chair for Josh. You have to find one around here somewhere, Josh.
In connection with the settlement, we also had the constituent jurisdictions enact the video customer service ordinance, so the commission is now fully authorized to handle that function throughout the franchise area as well.
Okay, no questions of Mr. Blair?
Nope.
I have questions on the customer service letters. That's the one after Brent. It's the last thing on page 4 on customer service.
Okay, why don't you bring your question forward?
And I assume that the franchisee will be addressing some of those. Do you get those letters to them?
Yes.
So they have a chance to see the letters?
Yes. The standard complaint process within the commission is that a written or phoned-in complaint is written up and faxed out to the cable company within a workday.
Okay, there's 2 areas I wish to explore.
About the response time, is that the one you're referring to?
Well, both. The response time. Let me tell you that one of the things that I think I want the franchisee to address today is that I started like at 2 o'clock today because I wanted to downgrade service. Okay, I didn't get through until about 2:28, so it took me about 28 minutes. To quit getting busy signals. At one point during that, I decided to call the administrative office number that was listed instead, got a busy signal there too. But finally, after about 15 minutes, got through to them. They said, oh, we can put you right through, but I was been put on hold. So after about 5 minutes on hold, I decided I've got to get to this meeting. So I finally, in driving to this meeting, finally got through. And after about 28 minutes of busy signals in total, and was put on hold for another 60 minutes before I could finally, get the downgrade in the service. And the person that I dealt with was very nice. When you finally get through, she was very competent, knew what she was doing, and indicated, there's a one-time fee to downgrade, which is $2 now. And so I just, I'm really concerned when I see people and I see so many angry letters in here. There must be a big frustration level, and that you would think that by now they would have worked out that telephone system where we don't have people having to spend a half hour just continually trying to get through and then put on hold once they do get through. So that is a concern. And then the second concern I have in one of these letters, I'd just like to know a legal answer to it. That's the letter where the gentleman said he was forced to give his Social Security number. I thought it was not legal to require a Social Security number.
By your regulations, the cable company has disclosed that it can ask for a driver's license at the point of install to confirm that a person authorizing the service is that person. And that's the only disclosure the cable company has made, and the only one that we have agreed to, that you have agreed to. The Social Security number was discussed and rejected in the negotiations on customer service.
Well, this person, if I don't know whether they've seen this letter or not, but that is really upsetting that a person was forced to disclose a Social Security number in order to change service. So I think that they should be prepared to respond to both of those, the long response times on a telephone still and that letter regarding the Social Security.
Okay. We can have
There's a lot of other stuff
cable
in here.
respond to that when they come forward to give their presentation.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask a question with regard to these copies of complaints that you have received and given us. Have we, our cable commission or yourself, responded to some of these complaints on behalf of them to SAC Cable?
We have forwarded the complaints to SAC Cable. We await SAC Cable's response. If SAC Cable's response clears the problem, then we consider the complaint closed.
Right.
If we need to intervene a second time because the response did not meet the regulations, we then do that. Okay. But we don't automatically respond. We forward and let the cable company respond.
Well, do you track it, though?
How do you track it?
Do you track it to the extent that they've either taken care of the problem or not taken care of the problem?
Right. On a weekly basis, sometimes a few days more than a week, the cable company gets a printout of the complaints that are open at that point in time and a tracking of how many have taken 5 days to process, 10 days to process, 30 days to process. Right. And that is routinely sent to the cable company on Fridays or Mondays.
So they do receive copies of this?
Absolutely.
They don't know for sure that you received their letter, though. You don't send a notice of acknowledgement to the writer of the letter to let them know that you're processing it? Or?
No, we don't.
Some of these people have you also talked to on the phone?
Many of them I've talked to on the phone. Yeah. Many of them especially some of the more difficult ones. When I detect a level of frustration, Nancy or Dan will pass it to me, and I will contact them directly. Oftentimes, even if they haven't provided their phone number, I'll track it down and get a hold of them. Sometimes the issues are much too complicated, especially the issue of the converter boxes, to deal with in a letter. It takes 10 or 15 minutes on the phone, as the cable company has explained. Some of the issues and aspects take more than a form letter.
And of the 9 letters we received, 3 of them were from one party. Is that right?
No, I think there were 9 separate letters. The 3
Mr.
were.
Dunn, I think there were
Mr. Dunn
letters
sent us the copies of all of his historical aspect, but I believe there were 9 separate individuals.
Yeah, I counted them up. There were 9 individuals.
Right. Those were attachments to Mr. Dunham's original letter.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to have these complaints, follow through. However, I do recognize that with 200,000 subscribers, you're going to get some complaints. But those that do complain, I'd like to make sure that we follow through on.
We do.
Okay. Well, that's the end of the general information items. There's no action required. We'll go on to item 5, opportunity for the franchisee to speak and comment. So, Mr. Rooker, or whoever's going to.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Happy New Year.
Same to you.
Let me address some of the service issues very quick because, first of all, this document was received on Tuesday. We get lots of letters. These are not all the letters that Sacramento Cable receives in a given week or a given day. We could dwarf this pile, and some of them actually say very nice things about Sacramento Cable. But more importantly, these may be resolved, they may not be resolved. I don't know the status of them, so I can't report on any of these letters. As a point, Dave Cox forwarded me the Mr. Wu's letter day before yesterday. It was resolved the same day within 15 minutes of the fax. So I can't really address these individual issues that you have here. I would like to put everything in a more broad perspective, though. We're talking 212,000 customers, 100,000 installs every year, 90,000 service calls every year, 2 million telephone calls were handled last year, an average of 200,000 calls per month. Yes, there are hold situations, and I can't address Commissioner Collins, Supervisor Collins' situation, but you could call at 7 o'clock at night and have 40 agents waiting on you hand and foot, or you can call at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and get 5 minutes on hold. The bottom line is that the government regulations and the FCC regulations say 30-second hold time or less. And that's exactly what we're striving for, and we're going to get there again like we were prior to September. I'm not going to sit here and make excuses for why we have 200,000 calls. I think that it's great that you're going to do your independent survey in the marketplace, look at our system and take a look at the clarity and the reception of our pictures, because they're going to be outstanding. Anybody can cherry pick a system and go out and pick complaints about where we've tried to resolve it, and there won't be any consultant in the world that will tell you that there are not potential problems where customers' problems cannot be resolved. There are some situations that absolutely cannot be resolved, and we make every effort, and in that case, I've been known to refund their entire amount of money, including all their back service, if they've put up with poor reception and they can't be resolved. It really is dependent on the issue. So what we're dealing with here is a very large cable company that when you started hearing words, I watched faces go like this about cascades. There are very few cable systems in the United States built at a 25 cascade level. And when you start really talking poor cascades, you're getting out in the 50 and 60 cascade level. And I think at one point in time, the maximum cascade in the entire cable system was 31. So I don't think it's going to be a problem that we won't be able to resolve. I think it's a problem that individuals may have, but we will get them resolved. And as Rich has said in the past, where we have had some problems, we've been quick to fix them. As far as the franchisees report, over the past 3 years, I have spent my months in front of you addressing you for the cable company. And I felt, provided that you would agree, that the people, since I do have an outstanding staff of very well and very experienced people, that in the future, that when issues pertaining to telephone, Mr. Gruber, who handles that area, would address those things. As far as billing, Kevin Jones, our accountant, would handle those things, and so on and so forth, because they are the professionals. They're the people that deal with it every day, and you would have all the facts from them. And of course, I would be available here to answer any questions that you may have that you want a direct answer from the overall company. And with that, I would like to introduce back to you Darby Patterson, who would like to make a presentation to you, basically a year in review of Sacramento Cable of 1993, a little presentation. And since Darby's come to our company some 6-7 months ago, she's been very involved in the community, very involved in the operation, and has a real good feeling for what has been going on, and has probably doubled the amount of contributions and community involvement since her presence at Sacramento Cable. So with your permission, I'd like to pass it on to her.
Yes, sir. A quick question here regarding hold time. You know, you mentioned something about subsequent to September, I guess. Do you know what the hold time was prior to August?
It ranged anywhere from 11 seconds to 30 seconds.
Or what was the average over 90%?
Probably 30 seconds.
30 seconds?
Sure.
Okay.
We were in compliance with the FCC regulations all along up until re-regulation.
And you normally get, what, 100,000 calls a month, or?
200,000.
But subsequent to August?
Oh, about 125,000, I believe. But I'll let Brian Gruber answer that.
Oh, okay. Your average is before that, and then after that, I'm curious.
Well, it's a lot of things. I think we've been over this about every month since September, but the real issue here is you've got changes in channel lineup where you changed over 40-50% of the channel lineup. You've had rates go up, you've had rates go down, you've got service problems as far as just standard service problems. If you're doing 125 regular 125,000, let's say, calls before, and those were all sales and service related calls basically, because that's about all the type of calls we take. What we've added is about 75 to 100,000 calls on top of that, and they're all over the board. I mean, it's complaining about MTV and Beavis and Butthead. It's talking about reception problems. It's normal service calls. It's sales, and we do not discriminate between a sales or service related call. So when a call comes in, we have no idea that it's Supervisor Collins downgrading her service, or it's Jimmy Yee going ahead and buying more service.
How come you haven't separated those functions then? It would seem
actually,
to me...
it was your regulations that kind of kept us from separating those functions, and so that there would not be priority treatment given to a sales related call.
Okay, so but I'd like to separate that out a little bit. There are a whole group of numbers listed in the book, correct? So that if a person is calling just to complain about a program or something else, if you did a listing where, you know, those would be the type of complaint calls, there's nothing in our regulations that would disallow you to do that, is there? If they were strictly complaints and were not addressing either new service or wanting to change their service, but were merely registering complaints, and or do you have a separate number for billing complaints?
I believe it does, but I think that we addressed it in a way that we have the ARU unit after the phone call is taken, where many of our calls, although we have a huge volume of calls, many of those calls are people that are using their touch-tone telephone to talk and look at their billing, or to listen to pay-per-view or whatever it may be. I mean, this is every phone call that we take in the operation. The reason for the list of phone numbers is if you wanted to call, as you said, you called on the administrative line. Well, you're not the only person that had a service problem that couldn't get through on a line and then decide, well, I'll just start calling every number in the book, or I'll just call the next one in line, or whatever
That's
it may
a
be.
big temptation to tie up all your lines when you're
Sure,
on there
well, it
that
does.
long.
And it makes it very difficult for people to get in on administrative lines, and that would be just for people that are contractors or people that are wanting to do business with us. And then you have
Why is the problem persisting, though? In other words, the changes
volume hasn't
and the
dropped.
volume. Why would you still that's what I'm trying to understand. Why still in January you're still having that problem? If you tell me that you're so tied up at 2 o'clock, I shouldn't have phoned at 2 o'clock, but you've got 40 people that can take my call at 7. Even I can figure out I shouldn't have that many people working at 7. Maybe I should have more of them working at a different
We're not light on employees. That is not the problem. It's I'll tell you, the problem is one called average talk time. And when you evaluate, and I'll let Brian address those things in more detail because he deals with it every day, but average talk time, when a person calls up and says, my bill isn't correct, I'd like to talk about it, they do that every day and they can resolve those fairly quick. But if a person wants to talk to you about a major complaint and then order a pay-per-view or do other things, the average talk time has increased from and he'll have to give you the exact numbers, but a couple of minutes average talk time to as much as 10 or 15 minutes. And that has to do with dealing with lots of other issues. And everybody presumes that the customer is going to call up the week or the day of re-regulation or during the rate increases and things like that. I mean, we're finding out that customers haven't looked at their bill, period. And then finally, in January, they decided to, or in December, they looked at their bill. They want to talk about it. Why did it go down? Why did it go up? How come you're itemizing all your charges on your bill? I didn't know I was paying for this. I mean, you could hear an absolute myriad of questions. And I guess the best way to resolve it is to invite you to come to Sacramento Cable, which few have, and come to Sacramento Cable, listen and monitor and take a few minutes and to see the kind of calls and the volume and the amount of people that we have there. And we would welcome you to come there and just see the operation and see the hundreds of people that are working there daily taking care of these people.
No, I've done that. I've done that. I've been out there.
You've been on the phones?
I've been out there several times. I've watched your customer service reps as they interact and listen to and resolve the type of calls that are coming in. So that's not the problem. I guess I'm just trying to get at, I'm trying to be as analytical as I can as to why the problem is persisting. If you feel it's regulations that we have in effect, that you can't streamline the system and you can't make it any better because of our regulations, I'd love for you to, detail some of that out, because I really do feel that when Rich points out in his report, which I'm sure you read, about some of the times that even their type calls have done, and you hear from other people about constant busy signals. I mean, it was hard for me to accept that until, obviously it happened to me, that you could get into that long a period of time so you can understand the frustration more, I think, of people who are trying to deal with this. So there must be a more practical way to handle this. You obviously have singled out pay-per-view so that people can really call in that number. And I don't know how many times they get busy signals on that because I don't order it. Is
fully
big a
automated,
problem?
and that's
it's the touch tones. Yeah. Well, couldn't you have a system that you had a touch tone system that would begin to segregate out this? The only thing I got on the touch tone system at the beginning was, if I wanted information. And I thought, no, I know what I want to do. I really don't want to push something for information as such. I just really feel that you need to work on the problem, and we need to understand if you think we're the problem. I mean, I don't think we are.
As far as to say that you're the problem, I would say that we have the most sophisticated telephone system available today. We have all the automated technology, which we are not using to its fullest capacity, which we were using before. The key to this whole thing is when we switch to a fully automated system, you're going to have just as many complaints about people saying, I hate that ARU, I hate having to listen to that laundry list of questions.
That's very true.
And you're going to have those type of things. But the bottom line is that I think that we're all, Rich included, and the commission and ourselves, would love to have our on-hold time less than 30 seconds. It is a company, meaning Scripps Howard, mandated policy to try to be under 30 seconds, as well as the FCC regulations. If we had it our way, everybody would have a person the moment they phoned in, and we love having those sales. We actually love having the service calls, because when we have lots of service calls, we're able to fix the problem, and when it's fixed, it's almost a no issue item. So we're not trying to duck the calls. The service call, the guy that doesn't have service or the person that has lousy reception, they don't stop calling. And by not handling them on their first call, we're very cognizant of the fact that they're going to be very angry if you delay them 2, 3, 4, 30 minutes, 2 hours, whatever it may be. We don't want that. But to do that and just snap your fingers and handle 200,000 calls when you are used to handling 125,000 calls a month is just not as simple as just adding people. I think that when you listen and see Darby's presentation, you'll see the number of weeks that go in before a person even gets on the telephone, the amount of extensive training that is necessary to be able to handle these calls. And you got to remember, these people are phenomenal. These customer service people are dealing with every single solitary type of problem that this cable system can possibly generate, whether it's an outage, whether it's a sale, whether it's a disconnect for non-payment, whatever it may be. And they are so versatile and so knowledgeable. And then when a customer is trying to talk to you and express their anger, why they've been disconnected for non-payment, and this customer service representative is going through literally 6 months of billing history to try and make them feel comfortable that they do owe us the money and they forgot to make a payment. It is a long and arduous process that we have to go through, and I am more, and my direction to my people and the staff that work here at Sac Cable has been, you take each customer and you resolve the problem once and for all, and we hope we can do that in every case, although we don't. But it is, we're trying to reach the same goal that you want us to reach. And
yeah, I just can't understand after this amount of time from September till now why it's still such a problem. I do a tremendous amount of transactions with businesses by phone. It is really, really rare for any business to get a busy signal more than 2 or 3 times. And it is rare to spend that even 7 minutes on hold. It usually happens much quicker than that. And even the first time on hold, after going through the administrative offices, I think I waited 5 minutes and still nothing happened. So, you know, I really, really feel that, you know, I'm going to have to understand it more, because I don't know if the progress is getting anywhere. So if your call volume is that high, is there anything you can do about it?
Well, that's what we address on a daily basis, and like I said, I think I've pretty much covered a lot of the type of calls that we take, and it's all relative to what goes on a day-to-day basis. You could have an extra 40,000 calls with one single outage in a given day, and it could totally ruin all your statistical analysis for a given month. All it takes is one outage. So, I mean, it's a serious problem that I just can't answer to you in some brief document. I would be more than happy to have our department break out for you all the individual types of complaint calls and the volume of each type of category of calls. I'll be more than happy to explain to you in those categories what we're doing to resolve the matter. But I think you will find that we don't take a very large, out of our, let's say, 200,000 calls, you're not taking more than probably 10,000 to 15,000 new installation calls a month. So that isn't going to be the lion's share of it. So it's other issues that we would have to break out and look at, and I think it would be a fairly extensive list.
I think you've done an excellent job in clarifying the problems that you're confronted with.
I don't think so, but I'd like to see the list.
And I
You'd like to see
I
it
think that
provided.
Mr. Supervisor Collin can spend more time with your people and get better answers on that. I think we should move along to Mrs.
If I
Patterson.
may, Darby Patterson would like to make a presentation.
Yeah, we'd like to hear from Darby as well as the other people that have indicated they want to speak.
You know, Mr. Chair, while she's coming up, I might mention also that I was listening to the conversation in the back. I'm not satisfied with that list as well. I've had the same problems personally that Ms. Collins has had with both on hold and not being able to get through. And those are personal problems. You know, maybe we're dialing on the
Well, I
wrong line or
think
something.
Mr. Rooker just said that he's very anxious and concerned and wants to get it taken care of, and he's going to be working at it as intensely as he can. I think by the time being, at least we're going to see some additional direction given to getting this thing solved, and I'm satisfied that they're going to try to do their best. So if we have further problems, we're going to go into a testing effort to clarify some of the problems.
Well, I appreciate that. It's just when you know you get busy signals or you get a 28-minute hold time.
Well, I know that would be very annoying to me too.
And I've got to tell you, when it's your significant other or your wife on the other line trying to get through, I can tell you, I don't know what Sue would say. What Sue would say, but
Sue thinks television is just great. Everything's smooth. You never have a problem. So.
They don't have it.
They don't have cable, yeah.
Well, you want to know what Sue thinks.
well, I don't know. Well, next time she's on hold or once she gets through,
She gets very excited about not being able to get through to the supervisor's office.
So we don't have a problem with that over at City Hall. Maybe we should talk about it.
Mrs. Patterson, welcome aboard. Happy New Year, and we're going to hear a video presentation from you today. Is that correct?
And the same to all of you, and I hope you weren't visited by the flu and colds for Christmas like practically everybody was, but it sort of sounds like there's some sniffles up there. I might want to add that Brian Gruber is here today, Director of Marketing, and Josh and Isla, if you have some specific questions, I think Brian could address those after the meeting if you wanted to get some specific answers for some of the problems and the obstacles that we faced even in the last month and the things that are ongoing. Obviously,
I think I understood to say, though, that you could give us a printout or
yeah,
something.
we can do that.
So
we can do that.
that's fine with me. I just want to understand why, since it's now, September, October, November, December, we're into January.
Well, believe me, there are answers to that. There are answers to that, and if you'd like to have a conversation and Josh to sort of indicate an immediacy about it, I'm sure that Brian would be more than happy to remain afterwards and talk with anybody that wants a little bit more information on. We'll follow it up then with written things as you've asked. And then for now, we kind of wanted to start out the new year with a different kind of an update. So we went ahead and we prepared a real short video. It's about 6 minutes long. And I'm personally hoping that this is going to give you a little bit better picture of the inside of Sacramento Cable and the hundreds and hundreds of people that make it work. I think you might enjoy seeing us this way, and I got to admit right away that this is pretty doggone positive, but I think sometimes you don't get enough opportunities to see us from that in that respect. And I also want to add that some of the slides that you're going to see were taken by our really talented employees. So we can go ahead and roll that video.
Thank you. Got it. All set.
Should be able to see it on these screens.
Can't see the thing to push. I've pushed it all off now.
No, they just haven't started yet.
Just haven't started to. There.
Probably don't worry about it. They haven't started.
Let's see if it comes on now. I want to show Josh the miracles of modern technology. Ward chambers.
I know.
There we go.
Sacramento Cable right here in your own screen.
The parent company has made an investment of more than $200 million in technology here, creating one of the most advanced cable systems in the nation. We are not, however, managed from a distance. We are a hands-on local business. Decisions affecting the service area are made by people who live and work in the community. The financial contribution of Sacramento Cable to the local economy is significant. Employing from 375 to 400 people, the annual payroll tops $13 million. Additional millions are turned over to other local businesses which provide materials and services to the cable system. Businesses such as independent contractors and dozens of firms which support Sacramento Cable's daily activities. In addition, more than $25 million is currently being invested to update the system and create an advanced fiber optic network. This undertaking means more money to the local economy and more jobs for Sacramentans. Most often, the first contact a customer has with the company is when a call is made to order cable service. It's the customer service representatives, CSRs, who welcome new subscribers, explain our services, and arrange for installation. CSRs also handle thousands of phone calls regarding other issues, from problems with service to questions about programming. Because their territory of expertise is vast, they must be very knowledgeable about many aspects of the cable system. Consequently, CSRs undergo an intense and thorough 4-week training program and are not considered seasoned until they've been working for at least 90 days. CSRs and other departments are backed up by a sophisticated computer and phone system. Calls coming into the system are logged and timed the moment the line is picked up by the automated response unit. Ordinarily, each CSR handles between 100 and 150 calls per day. Throughout the first 6 months of 1993, average on-hold time for customers was 30 seconds. Customers may also become acquainted with our installers and technicians. All employees who enter homes or work in the field are clearly identifiable, equipped with identification and wearing attractive uniforms for the safety and the security of our customers. In 1992, we started a special program in pole climbing, one of the most physically taxing of all jobs. Over the past 2 years, more than 171 technicians have graduated from these classes. Many other areas of expertise contribute to the running of the cable system, such as the marketing, sales, human resources, and accounting departments. We also depend upon our administrative staff, billing, and accounting personnel, and others who support our demanding, service-oriented cable business. Training programs and education workshops are now daily business at Sacramento Cable. Under the leadership of General Manager Kim Ruckert, there's been an increasing emphasis on helping employees advance professionally and supporting them personally. From training new CSRs to our personal health and well-being programs, all employees can benefit from special in-house programs. There's even a class in CPR which has graduated more than 145. All these programs continued throughout the year, even though we faced a challenge unprecedented in company history. In August of 1993, the effects of industry re-regulation swept over Sacramento Cable. As we worked to comply with the Cable Act of 1992, tackling demands that were often unclear and untested, our employees committed themselves to long hours of hard work. The onslaught was first felt on our telephone lines, as customers reacted to news stories about changes taking place. In September, we handled 220,000 calls, more than double our normal load. We responded to the challenge by hiring and training 28 new CSRs and bringing on 30 temporary workers. To inform customers, we sent several direct mail pieces at a cost of more than $350,000. A half-hour television program was also produced. Ads ran in daily newspapers, and we took advantage of every opportunity to inform our customers about the anticipated changes. By October 6th, when re-regulation was in place, we had reached agreements with all of our local broadcasters to continue carriage of their stations on our system. We had inherited 2 additional shopping channels, been forced to drop 2 stations and move others. We have spent more than $600,000 in our effort to comply. Still, the phone volume continued to be high. Our on-hold time for the last quarter of 1993 averaged between 4 and 5 minutes, compared with 47 seconds the same quarter the previous year. However, not all customers were unhappy. We received numerous letters such as this one saying, "When Sacramento Cable comes under fire for long waiting time for phone assistance, it's definitely a bum rap in our view. Please accept my thanks for your efforts to bring great programming and excellent service to your customers. Sincerely, Mary Deschus." It's a credit to our employees that we are now emerging from that hectic and unusual period. It's a sign that training programs, health education, and supportive services do make a difference. Throughout those months, we also continued our active involvement in community affairs. In 1993, we were major contributors to several local organizations, from the arts to education and benevolent charities. We sent hundreds of needy youngsters to performances at Arco Arena and made significant financial contributions to help children as well. We were leaders in contributing to funds aimed at fighting the hate crimes against Sacramento's minority communities. And in December, we joined the Human Rights Commission in sponsoring a forum at a local high school to get teenagers talking about the rise in racism and violence among youth. The program was so successful, several are planned for other schools throughout the city. We also made a long-term commitment to the Urban League to be a major financial sponsor of the organization's effort to build a job training center for youth. The holiday season was particularly good for Sacramento Cable, as generous employees donated tons of food for Thanksgiving meals for Sacramento's needy. The company was one of the largest donors to the annual food drive sponsored by Sacramento Food Bank Services. We also came through for Kids at Christmas. A caravan of 10 cable trucks arrived in Oak Park bearing teddy bears, race cars, dolls, games, and Santa Claus himself. 1993 was gratifying, rewarding, yet challenging for all of us at Sacramento Cable. We look forward to 1994 as an opportunity to build strong and positive relationships with our customers and contribute to the quality of life in our community. Well, that's just a very small picture and certainly an inside and biased view of some of the very good things we do and some of the challenges that we faced. And I certainly want to reiterate Kim's invitation to you all, an open-door invitation. Please come out and visit us personally. We'll give you a tour. You can sit down and look at the issues that are important to you. Just contact us anytime. We'd be happy to host you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Darby. The next person then would be Ron Cooper.
That would be for the next item. That's for item 6.
Oh, that's item 6. I beg your pardon. That concludes our presentation. No further questions from the commission. We'll move on to item 6. Randy status reports. You want to make any comments on that, Rich?
No, Mr. Chairman. This is an opportunity for your grantees to present information to you. It's an option. It's optional at their.
Very first person to speak will be Mr. Cooper.
Chairman Johnson and members of the commission, another Happy New Year to you, and we look forward to another quality year at Access Sacramento. And I brought along some documents, which is our policy, so that you have written information about. And I'll continue on and try to make my comments as brief as possible. Just in summary, the document that you're receiving now gives you, again, complete statistical information regarding the programming, original programming submitted, the numbers of programs, the hours of programs, and dates back to the summer of 1986 when we first went online. So you can see the trends and the changes over time. In pulling out one particular number that we're proud of in the year 1993, the amount of locally produced programs reached an all-time high. 1,468 programs are created using local resources, an 8.6% increase over 1992, and also 75.3% of these local programs were created using Access Sacramento facilities, for a total of 1,106 programs. More than 50 nonprofit groups in the last quarter submitted programs ranging from the Calvary Christian Center and the American Atheists to the Women's Civic Improvement Club and Zero Population Growth, and a complete list of those 50-plus organizations is included in the packet. We also are now, because of the interest by other than English-speaking populations in terms of the unique services provided via the Access channels, are measuring programming, and we find that in this fourth quarter, 10% of our programming is in languages other than English. A few examples are Spanish, Russian, Italian, and Vietnamese. We also now, at the urging of our programming committee, who does not sit watching 18 hours a day of our programs on 2 channels, wanted some kind of a snapshot, and hopefully this is informative for you as well, a sense of type and subject. We've always kept these statistics, but we're now pulling them out and in these quarterly reports for you. And you can see there where in the 3 categories that we're breaking out, informational programming is by far the largest single one, 76%. And under specific subjects, religious programming on our 2 channels is 29% of the programming that we offer, and you can see the breakout in terms of the other different categories: public affairs 20%, arts 12%, and so forth. So that's an update in terms of the programming, and again, detailed information is included. Moving on, in terms of the report, I've mentioned to you at last month's meeting that the Board of Directors and the staff of Access Sacramento is exploring the possibility of expanding our facility and creating a media center for the city and county of Sacramento at 12th and C Streets, and as part of that, managing a nonprofit bingo facility in partnership with other nonprofit groups. I've written out an update of that. Negotiations are still continuing, and please do look at that. And one final note on that subject: again, no cable commission revenue will be used in any non-cable related activity. We are very clear about that. Moving on to the area of collaborations, again, I've identified several, especially working with the various aspects of the educational community. Some new collaborations I haven't reported on before, though, are the contacts made with the Northern California Mexican Consulate Office and the Consul for the Mexican government. We enjoyed several conversations and lunch about the possibility of trying to work out exchange of programming and even the possibility of satellite link up, so that the expertise in the Sacramento area combined with the expertise in Mexico City and other areas of Mexico can frequently exchange information even in a live context. NAFTA requires a real sense of a freight train of information exchange between the country of Mexico and the state of California, and we'd like to see an important role for the access channels in that regard. And so far, it's been met very favorably. We have implemented, as part of our voicemail system, again, no 30-second waits over there. Voicemail at least will shuttle you to a box, and you can leave a message for sure. We're still working the bugs out, but so far so good as far as the concerns that have been raised. Most have been very positive in the addition of voicemail, but I wanted to particularly point out Speak Out Sacramento, extension 100 on the voicemail system, which encourages, and it's just started up now in the month of January. From any phone in the world, you can call in, leave a message. It's an electronic soapbox, as easy to access as your phone, and then played back at noon during the weekdays on KCBL and over Channel 18 on the bulletin board service. Also wanted to bring to the attention here at the meeting, there are 3 vacancies currently in terms of the Access Sacramento board. And please do, if you know of folks, please do invite them to give me a ring, or Les Fink, our nominating committee chair, and we'll be happy to send out application information. And also, we've just completed the 1993 inventory of facilities and equipment, and a copy of that will be sent to your staff for your information. In addition to the other data that has been included on the last page, I want to bring that to your attention. It's a list of programming that has run in the 4th quarter on the Access Sacramento produced live show called Live Wire, Wednesdays from 6 to 6:30. And I particularly wanted to bring to your attention this coming Wednesday, the 12th, we're going to have a very special guest, Zev Kadem. You may have seen the article in the Sacramento Bee. He is one of the surviving members of Schindler's List. If you haven't seen that movie, go prepared. Go with friends. But Mr. Kadem, I've heard him speak. It should be quite an interesting show and a live call-in show, and please do tune in. Moving on, this is also the time for our quarterly reports regarding our performance grants, and I do have copies of that for Rich and copies for any of you who are interested. And also under the umbrella of Access Sacramento, Julie Brawley received a grant, and I have her report and also Les Fink on the Holocaust has received a performance grant. He planned to be here today, so I am sure that report will be here shortly. And the interesting thing about that project is now it will include Zev Kadem and the important information that he has regarding the Holocaust as part of that tape. The quarterly report about the performance grant for Access Sacramento has to do with the upgrade in terms of the truck cameras. And we have a little video here that I brought along in order to kind of demonstrate that upgrade. One of the other things that we've done is taken a snapshot in terms of the quality of programming. Again, the frustration a lot of times is that there is a misunderstanding, and whoever you talk to last, or whatever the last program, 5 minutes in program that you saw on an Access Sacramento channel, all of a sudden that's what Access Sacramento is all about. So we don't expect everybody to watch everything. That's my job. But on Channel 17, which the Board of Access Sacramento does have 100% control over the programming that runs on that channel, it is, as of the last month now, 100% locally produced programs. And so we've developed this. It's not a scientific method, but we're asking on at least a quarterly basis. I will pick a week at random, and our playback operators, we're devised a fairly simple, straightforward mechanism of watching Channel 17 and 18, but I'm reporting on 17 here, just to give a sense of the technical quality, the production quality of the programming on community use Channel 17. And again, the idea here being is that below average access quality would be something along the lines of a home video. Average public access quality would be, say, a camcorder with some editing, because most homes don't have that capability. Above average access quality would be similar to local productions on TV stations that show real skill and thought and preparation. And broadcast quality is just that. That is 100% professional look, high technology, excellent art involved. And you can see there in terms of the snapshot that the above average and broadcast quality of the days in question that we sampled there was by far the majority. And Channel 17, again, it's as easy as accessing the channel anytime you wish. We invite you to take a look. And in that regard, and I'm supposed to give the folks in the back room some warning, but we've put together a little minute-and-a-half tape here. The truck camera upgrade has significantly improved the technical capability of the truck. These three examples really point that out. First one is the Sutter Symphony and Choir in St. John's Lutheran Church during the holidays. At a production challenge, a tremendous one, you had choir divided into 3 different portions. You had a full symphonic orchestra in a darkened church with audio and video problems. I'll let the video speak for itself. Next was a Greek tragedy that was videotaped at Sacramento State with cooperation with the theater department. The challenge there is, from a technical point of view, a lot of stage movement and unique lighting for a stage environment. And again, the technology and crew, it's very demanding to do an excellent job. And then the third, if you've ever been to a basketball game or a volleyball game at Sac State's gym, and again, I'm an alum, so I can say this, whoever put those yellow lights in, it's just ridiculous. I mean, the skin tone, and the athletes look jaundiced. But you'll notice that with these new cameras and color correction, this women's volleyball game, I'd put it up against anything on ESPN. So if we could take a look at that tape, give you a sample of it. Party again and go. It really does make a difference, and but I also want to emphasize there are people behind those cameras, and what you're seeing there is a
Not
result.
those robots like you see at the
No,
other
not a
TV
robot there.
stations. There's robots are running all over the room.
And again, anyone who's had any experience with TV technology and the crewing of a shoot like the St. John's Lutheran Church Symphony and Choir shoots, that quality is amazing to me in terms of the intimacy right in the orchestra. And again, you had a question before, Isla, in terms of the training program. That's what the training program results. I mean, those folks all went through the training classes and have put in a lot of time. And my hat's off to them. It's not just the cameras. Upcoming programs using the truck as part of your performance grant to us include the Pig Bowl '94 for the second year in a row, Russian choir music from Fremont Presbyterian Church, the Martin Luther King Committee celebration of gospel and symphony with the Sacramento Symphony and the NAACP 300-voice choir.
Are you going to do that? Are you going to tape it and then show it in a
Yes.
tape delay rather than a live?
Yes. Yeah. The Pig Bowl or the...
No, the gospel, Martin Luther King gospel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because those are usually sold out. So,
Yeah. Well, to go live, we would need to have a microwave capability of going from a site portable and then back out on the system again. And also, we're going to be doing this year's Sammy's Award for local music awards. And then I just passed out again. This is for your attention. I won't go through it. This is a draft document. Many of you have expertise in the area of the nonprofit community and fundraising endeavors. And this is a draft document that's going to help us in our continuing efforts to augment the grant that's supplied by the Cable Commission. And we'd like to bring that to your attention because, again, it gives you a snapshot in terms of how we represent ourselves, what some of our accomplishments have been, and also, very importantly, a donor bill of rights. You'll see on the next to the last page there, which, again, I think puts us right up front in terms of how we go out to find donors and our obligations to them, our obligations to you in terms of reporting and being right up front and using those funds wisely and as they were given. If there are no further questions, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Carrie does too, I think, right?
Ron, the nature of the vacancies on the board, are they resignations? Are they term expirations? What are they?
It's a variety. One woman that the demands of work. Mostly it's a matter of the time commitment and have to move out of the area. Those are really the nature of the three that are vacant. We're particularly in need of women. We have I think an excellent ethnic representation on the board, but it's very, very much men. So we're particularly looking for qualified women to even that out.
Have you, would you circulate applications to us? We'll be glad to, at least I personally would be glad to try and help you locate, if you'll give that information to me.
Okay.
How about any programming complaints, any calls from people not liking what they see on 17 or 18?
I usually end up answering those calls. I'm aware of, I would say, 2 or 3 calls over the last month. Each of them, I feel, was an honest attempt in terms of talking to Access Sacramento and to me as the executive director about their concerns. In each case, I feel that was resolved very positively. The most recent one was just yesterday, a gentleman who wanted to understand, and one of the things that hasn't been brought up here, but there have been some real changes in the FCC guidelines regarding programming. And it might be interesting in terms of a discussion at the commission in terms of not just the technical standards, but the 92 Cable Act, the FCC guidelines, and also the recent Third District Court decision regarding those standards. There are some major changes, and we reassure the Commission that our stewardship of the facility continues. I still wear the beeper, and the 100%, and I mean that, the 100% cooperation of our volunteer producers is extraordinary. It's one thing to be told you cannot do something, and it's another one to be tempted to, well, maybe we can, and to have volunteers in this community consistently choose not to do the latter, I think, is a compliment to all of us, and particularly to them.
So you're happy the way things are working in that?
Very much so. And I think you would hear it if it were not so.
Thank you, Ron.
I have a couple of questions, Ron. One is a simple one. You know, you would like to see us recruit some more women, or help you do that for the Access Board in terms of just, I think of Terry's idea about passing out some applications. But in terms of the background, you know, I don't know whether we really ought to be looking for people with a background in business or a background in the educational community, the scientific community, so that you can maybe give us.
What I'll do is I'll submit application materials and the snapshot of our current board.
That would be helpful.
But in particular, because of the need for fundraising and other ventures, certainly business background, fundraising background, those are very much needed, as most nonprofit boards look for.
Second question is just the continual one I keep bringing up when I look at what the content of, for instance, by categories, what kind of programs, and I'm just wondering if your board is looking at perhaps trying to balance out. And you can't tell by these categories, for instance, it's pretty subjective what you would stick into what category, I think, in some of these categories. But when I look and I see that only 1% of the time, you know, your independent producers are doing anything about the business community at a time when we, you know, when a lot has happened and a lot is predicted to happen, there could be some really interesting material there. I don't know how much your board really wants to get into setting some target goals, saying we'd really like to indicate that here's areas where we really think we're not doing as good a job in terms of covering the total community as we could. The other one I would say would be when you look at science and you got 0. At a time when, you know, that if it's handled by your independent producers in the right way, that could be a really exciting type of programming. So my curiosity is just, you know, given your board, is your board trying to struggle with those kinds of issues rather than put so much emphasis on the religion and some of the others that already have channels devoted to them?
The question, Isla, is an issue which is very different in terms of the access world versus the broadcast television world.
Except you got 2 channels.
Right. And what you're talking about is program creation in the areas of science, program creation in the areas of the business community and the downtown growth.
But that's what your producers are doing already. Creating programs.
They're creating programming, that programming, because they're volunteering their time, that programming that they desire most, and they're most interested in and want to dedicate their time to do. And then with Livewire and other programs like that, we within our budget assign staff in order, and augmented by volunteers, to produce programs in certain areas. So what I'm listening here is that in terms of, well, maybe we ought to invite economic development people to come on to Livewire to talk about the downtown development as a way of augmenting. That's what Livewire is intended to do, is to augment these statistics in that controlled fashion that we control in terms of the program content. And that's why Livewire plays a very important role. What a volunteer chooses to do, you could cajole, and what you can't do is coerce. And so one of the things I would offer is that the chamber and other organizations may in fact have programming, may in fact hire professional crews to go out and do a 10-minute video. We've had those programs in the past. I agree with you. I'd like to see more of them. But more often than not, the business community, I think, likes to have control over what are we saying. And same in the scientific community. Very important that content and the point of view be expressed in a very.
But that's what your independent producers are doing too, so they could be considered an independent producer, couldn't they, if they gave you something that they produced here locally?
Exactly, and that's why we belong.
And I'm just saying, your board. I'd like to know if your board is struggling with how to allocate time so that there would be, and how to allocate outreach to maybe non-traditional producer types that you're typically dealing with, to try to diversify the programming. I would just, I would just hope your board is struggling with that and trying to figure out what to do with it.
Yes, and any ideas and suggestions you have are much appreciated.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ron. Again, that was a receive and file report, as was item 5.
Mr. Ruther, by the way, did...
Wait a minute. I finished my speaking. I want to apologize to you, Darby, for not thanking you for the video. I thought that the other two speakers that I had listed here, Mr. Cooper and Mr. Gruber, were both going to speak on item 5, and I neglected to notice the numbers that Diane gave me. So we did want to thank you very much for the overview of things out at Sacramento Cable, and it was very well and informative, very informative. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Toby. I thought you were going to be closing the meeting.
No.
I did want to comment that I wanted to also thank Darby for the for providing the information, and I know that Sacramento Cable's been doing a lot of outreach in the community, but I didn't get an answer on the Social Security letter. Do you plan to provide that answer, or?
We do not require Social Security card.
Why don't you give a copy?
Why don't you? I'm sure you. Well, he has the letter, and I think that as a matter of training, etc., if your person insisted on that, that perhaps there should be some way to deal with this particular
Social Security is required when they consult with Sacramento Cable.
That's me. Briefly,
put your name on the tape too.
I'm sorry, Brian Gruber, Director of Marketing, Sacramento Cable. Briefly, a Social Security number is one of 6 optional forms of identification that we ask of our customers, the most common being a California driver's license number. Therefore, it is definitely not mandatory or necessary for a customer to provide that as one of their optional forms of identification.
Okay.
So you'll respond to the person's letter?
If there is a letter that we need to respond to, we'd be happy to do so.
Yeah, well, the person is very explicit in here, so I'm sure Mr. Ruther.
I haven't seen that letter, but we'd be happy to review it and respond immediately.
We'll make sure you get a copy.
Thank you.
Okay, why don't you just stay there? The last item on our afternoon agenda is item 7, which is an opportunity for the public to present matters that may be of interest, and you have indicated you wanted to speak.
Specifically, we understood there may be some customer complaints, and that was the area where customers come forward. If there are...
We have no complaints from customers about you, so...
Oh. We'll work on that for next time, Brian.
No, nobody's here today to complain.
So that was the specific reason. If there were a need to elaborate some of the customer service issues, I would have to do so. But that was the reason.
If you will give attention to the letter that Supervisor Collins mentioned, get that squared away, we'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir. We'll do that.
Okay, thank you everyone for being here this afternoon. Any further comments from any members of the commission? Not hearing any, the meeting is adjourned.
Okay, thanks.
2 hours, we'll be waiting.